Welcome to the More Gems Show. I'm your host, Steve Moriarty, and with me tonight are my son, Michael, who's in charge of this production, and my other son, Jeff, who will be moderating the chat. So if you have questions, feel free to ask. We'll get to as many as we can.
Yes, we will.
Tonight we're featuring opals, and I'm an opalholic. And I know my son Jeff is fascinated by opals. And just why is that, Jeff?
Well, we've mentioned in a few other shows that I guess one of my favorite things to do is the mining of opals. So it's kind of that where do we go in Nevada, correct? What's the area?
Virgin Valley.
Virgin Valley.
And what was the mine, Michael?
It was Rainbow Ridge.
Rainbow Ridge is where we went.
Yeah.
I'll show you if I can. Okay, so this is one of the opals from Rainbow Ridge. And this is yours, I think, Jeff. Yeah. Yep. So the opals we're featuring tonight are Ethiopian, different than the opals from Nevada, because as you see here, you cannot take these out of the glass jar. So when we do mine them, the soil is wet in Nevada, and as soon as you find an opal, you take a quick look at it, and you throw it in a bucket of water, because they can't stay out of water for very long. If you leave them out for probably a half hour or so, they're going to start to crack up on you. And that's because they dry out and form cracks. But the material from Wilo, Ethiopia is different. I started dealing with Ethiopian opal in 2012. They were discovered in 2008. And my knowledge of opal from Ethiopia at the time was of Mazizo, which is in the south of the country. They're typically more brown coloration. And my understanding was that you really couldn't cut much of it. It was not stable, much like the Virgin Valley material. It just wouldn't hold up, would crack on you. So I had little interest in it at the time. But there was a new show starting in Tucson, and a friend of mine was showing there. So I went over to see him and, walk into the showroom. And this showroom probably could have handled 200 booths, and there was about 7 of them total. So I went over, talked to a friend, and he was pretty disappointed. And upon leaving, I noticed these 3 Africans in the corner in a booth, and just stopped by to take a look, and I could see it was opal, and they looked pretty nice to me, but again, I didn't have an interest in anything from Ethiopia just because the reputation it had. So I went to another show at the GJX and met with another friend. He used to be in a booth next to me when I showed out there, and as soon as I looked at his booth, I go, what's going on here? Yeah. He typically would be in the same material I was, just a wide variety of faceted stones, but his entire booth was opal. I mean, he had nothing but opal. So it kind of threw me, and, in discussing it with him, he started telling me about the new supply from Wilo in Ethiopia. And I said, David, excuse me a second. I'll be back and talk to you later. So I went back to the other show and to see the Ethiopians and made my first purchase there of Ethiopian opal. And it's been uphill, downhill, I don't know, whatever since. I've been so into this material. I've been buying so much of it. And that's the purpose of tonight is to start moving more of this material because it's still available. I have a very good supplier. I've dealt with him for many years now, and he gets better at buying, and the material is still available. So I need to turn more. I probably have 5,000 carats accumulated, and so that's the reason for the 50% off tonight. Not that I want to sell them that cheap, but I think it's important I sell them because if I don't sell them, I can't buy them. My wife's going to have a limit to how much I can stockpile, and so time to move some of this material, and that's our purpose tonight. So if you, as we're showing you stones, and you have an interest in buying, if you go to MoreGems.com, and at the top of the screen there's a green bar, and when you click on that, it'll open all the stones that are available tonight. You're also going to see last week's stones, which were a variety of stones. They're all 15% off. Some really great stones on there. We sold several, but there's some great stones left. And that sale is through tomorrow night, and then those go off and back to regular price. So those are still available. So if you want to purchase, we take credit card, of course. We have PayPal. We have a financing plan available online, and you can do layaway, but you do have to call us after the show or probably during the day tomorrow or throughout the week. We should be in. So just give us a call and we'll set up payments. It's a 6-month. You can have as long as 6 months. We just expect monthly payments with 20% down. So we're there to help you own some opal, and you're going to see some great ones tonight. I really feel that the Ethiopian opal is some of the finest on the planet. There are many, many Ethiopian opals. I mean, the quantity is large. Most of it's low end to medium. I mean, there's a ton of that material. You can buy it for $10 a carat, $20, $30 a carat. But then when you get into the fine material, it's a very small percentage of the opal that comes out of there. That's like the material you're going to see tonight. So let's get to it, and I'll show you the first stone. This is Jeffrey, a sail shape. We discussed sales last night. And what was it about?
We talked about, I think, the stone I remembered as a kid, and you mentioned, you whittling with your stick to create sailboat cuts.
Yeah.
So I was excited. I was hoping we'd see some sailboat cuts tonight. So you tell me it's going to happen. You brought some sailboat cuts with you?
Yeah, I've got some pieces that would make into a sailboat pendant, which at the time I was hand carving sailboats in amethyst, mostly in citrine, blue topaz, and we'd make them into the shape of a sailboat. Let me show you this one. Kind of a sail shape, would easily be made by Chris, our designer, into a sailboat. So this particular opal weighs 18.86 carats. It's fully an inch long, and just amazing colors. I mean, you look at the amount of color that's in this, the intensity of the colors in Wheelo opal is just extraordinary. The material you typically see out of Australia, most of it doesn't play a color like this. Although some of the material from Australia is just amazing, and it's every bit the kind of quality that you see here. But there's a lot more Wheelo Ethiopian opal available today than you'll find from Australia. Very difficult to find great stones in quantity from Australia, very limited, but Ethiopia is producing a large quantity, and the prices are much, much better than you'll see out of Ethiopia. Like this stone weighs 18 karat 86. Our price typically on it is $1,990. So tonight you're going to get that for under $1,000, which is $50 a carat or something, which is remarkably inexpensive. An opal like this from Australia, 200, 300, maybe 400 a carat is what you'd pay for that. So really a great buy on a great opal. And if you want to make a sailboat out of it, we can make this into a sailboat for you. Easy to do. You can add a hull to it and lines and whatever you need out of it. We can make a sailboat out of this, or just a simple pendant. The great thing about these opals that people tell me after they have them is that when they wear them, the amount of people that come up to them and just comment, so much more than pretty much any other stone they own. And it's partly because of the size of them. Wheelo opals, when I was dealing in Australian opal, a big opal for me was 5 carats. Now my small opals are 5 carats, and I have opals up to 90 carats. That's the big advantage of Ethiopia is price, size, and of course amazing colors. The next one up is a faceted opal. We've done really well with faceted stones. This opal weighs 753. Regular price is $790. When you go on to More Gems and pull up the stone when you want to purchase, just put in the coupon code Opal Show, and you'll get that 50% off. And you see stones like this and the colors that come out of them. The best of this material is has a honeycomb pattern like you see in this stone. These honeycombs, they're like cells in the opal. You can see them before they flash, and the colors just flash directly out of there. And all the honeycomb, the colors are just vivid. I mean, they're as vivid as any color that you can get out of an opal, out of any stone. And these honeycomb are the best at showing these colors. Each one of those cones will display a different color, and if you rotate it, you can get different colors out of the same cone. So really amazing stone. The faceted stones also have a little extra benefit that if you look at this and you catch it right, sometimes you'll see a red flash. Some of those red flashes are play of color. That's what opal does. Others, sometimes you'll see a broad flash out of a faceted opal, and that's just a reflection of the body color. So the back facet is actually reflecting the body color, which typically in these opals is slightly reddish to orangish, and you'll get a red flash out of them. So you're getting not only play of color, you're getting a flash of red that's caused by the faceting. So partly that's what makes the faceted interesting, but it just makes a totally unique opal when they're faceted. I mean, we don't see faceted opals from most places because they don't come clear like the Ethiopian does. This material is what's considered in Australia. They refer to this material as top crystal, meaning it's very clear, and it's always been considered the top quality and in a white opal, the top crystal material. And much of the Ethiopian is this same crystalline material. So a really cool stone that you're going to be into for under $400. This stone probably took me 5 hours to cut it. So how profitable it is, that doesn't make a difference. It's just a beautiful stone, and you can own it. Just make a great pendant. And, these are colors that you see across the room. You wear a piece like this, and everybody's going to be catching a glimmer of it. As you move, the colors flash.
Wait, Tim, no, almost looked up. There we go. Hey,
what?
Steve.
A viewer question. Okay.
Start tossing something over there.
Okay. Sorry. We should have a beanbag or something. You flip at me.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. Well, first, the honeycomb keeps making me think of the murder hornets. Don't hear too much about those. Hornets. That was last week's thing. But a couple questions here. First one.
Be a good pendant. We could put a murder hornet on them. That'd be cool.
There you go.
Yeah. So anybody want a murder hornet pendant, we'll be glad to make one for you. Be a cool piece.
Put in some amber or something. Could we drip some syrup, freeze it up?
We could do that.
So with the faceted versus, I guess the cabochon or that kind of natural cut that you do, what makes you choose to do a faceted versus a different cut?
Saleability, because the faceted sell. I mean, it's a much better seller than cabochon, but most materials not suitable for faceting. They're just either too milky. You can't take a stone that you can't see through and facet it. I mean, you can, and it's still an interesting piece, and I've done them that way. But the big benefit is when they're transparent, you get the effect you would get out of any clear, transparent, faceted stones, and that's some brilliance, and like I mentioned, the red. So I look more and more for stones I can facet because my odds of selling them are better. So that's the big determination. They're just cool. They're different. It's different than any other opals. So if I can facet them, I've got something different, and everybody's always after something different.
All right, and good answer. One question that kind of to do with things going on now, but with everybody using hand sanitizers quite a bit, does that have any effect on opal? Should people watch out for that?
I should test it, and I will test it.
Okay.
Probably because there's glycerin in it. I don't know. Some of the issues with Wheelo opal is they are hydrophane, and we're going to show you a little bit what hydrophane means. We've talked about what happens when you get a hydrophane opal really wet, and we're going to show you that tonight. But I would assume that the glycerin that's in, or aloe, in those could have some effect on the opals, because these opals are like little sponges. They absorb whatever you put on them, and some things you don't want to put on them. Oils, like hand creams and stuff, So they're generally better as pendants, but we do a lot of them as rings. You just have to be careful, because anything you get on them has the potential for entering into the opal, and it can affect the beauty of the stone. I've seen medications, which many of them are oily, that people use on their skins. I've seen it once that it affected the opal. I mean, I literally could see under the scope the oil was into the opal. So you do have to be careful, and glycerin may be a consideration. Or I think it's aloe that's in them, but it may have some effect, and I will try and test that this week. And speaking of, was that all the questions, Jeff? Or?
I just wanted to do a shout out. Do people do shout outs still? I don't know. Michael might show my age. Andrewlyn won. It's their birthday today, so happy birthday. Thanks for joining the show.
You should have an opal for your birthday.
She's
So what I'm going to show you next is a little study we'll do here during the show. This should be time enough to get through this. And it's just what getting an opal really wet, an Ethiopian opal, will do to the stone. When the first ring I had made just before we were going out to Tucson, I wore it and I washed some clothes that evening, and it affected the color of the stone, just that being in that water. It is not a problem because it comes back, but for the week during the show I was in Tucson, I couldn't wear the opal because the color was gone, and I'm going to show you that tonight. So this is our test sample. Actually, a pretty nice opal. You get that up there, Mike? Whoop, can I get that in? So really nice colors. So obviously what I'm going to do to it is hopefully no risk, and to my knowledge, it's no risk. And we're going to take this beautiful opal and turn it into something mediocre. And how are we going to do that? We're going to take this little glass of distilled water, throw it in there, and we'll keep an eye on it during the show and see what happens. So that's our little research for tonight. I'll put this to the side and we'll get back to some opals. What's the next opal there, Mike? All right. This is a carving. And the reason that we carve is because of the way these opals form. When you look at the rough, let's see. So can you do a close-up, Mike? So this is the rough, and this is the parent rock around it, and probably the whole end of this is all parent rock. There's probably no opal underneath that, so this is all going to come off, and I'm just going to cut that away and see what's left. But what happens with this material, it looks nice and smooth, but when you start cutting this away, there's deep pits in it. I've had them go halfway through an opal. So to get rid of that, either you cut 2/3 of the opal away, or you do a carving. This was a deep pit, so I just cut it out and worked it into the design of the opal. If I hadn't done this opal that is almost 26 carats, probably would have been 15 carat, maybe. So it's a way of retaining the weight of the opal, which is the big advantage. The big disadvantage is the amount of work it takes to do this. Where I can cab a stone in under an hour, I can facet one in maybe 2 to 4 hours. The first carved stone I did probably took me 20 hours. I'm much better now, and I'm probably still 7, 8, 9 hours. So it's just very labor intensive. You got to do hand tools, and getting in there to polish just takes a lot of time. So I avoid it whenever I can. I'll waste a little material, but when you're going to waste half the stone, you go ahead and you carve the piece. So that's what this is about. And, just really nice colors. This is probably semi-black. The depth of body color puts it into that category. Things that are semi-blacks and blacks generally bring more money, and they bring more money because that darker background tends to make the color stand out well. As you can see in this stone, this is also the honeycomb pattern. I have a lot of honeycomb tonight. Honeycomb is really not that common, but we're going to see quite a few tonight, and you can see why they're popular because the colors are just so intense. They just add another 10, 20% to the intensity of the color, and the color in this material is already extraordinary. So where do you see colors like this other than neon signs? I mean, just really amazing, the quality of these opals. So this one weighs almost 26 carats. The price we have online is $2,800. So it's a $1,400 opal. Whether you know it or not, I believe this is very inexpensive for this quality. Like I say, you can buy Ethiopian opals. You can buy a 25 carat Ethiopian opal for $200, $300, but not one that looks like this. These are just really top quality material. They're just well cut and polished, really extraordinary stones for the money. So 25 carat stone, that's $1,400 is probably $60 a carat. So just a really nice opal, make a great pendant. Next stone. This one looks more like an Australian opal than a Wheelo opal. I mean, if somebody showed this to me and told me it was Australian, I go, oh, okay. Because they're Australian more typically is a milk white body color. And this would be an outstanding Australian opal. But it still is hydrophane. And hydrophane is a plus. Being hydrophane, what it does for an opal is it makes it so it doesn't craze. Crazing is what a lot of Australian material will do when they dry out. Crazing is a formation of little cracks throughout the stone. Certain sources in Australia, just like the Nevada material, guaranteed to craze. You just You cut them, which I have experience with this. The first parcel of opal that I ever cut, I spent an entire week, and it was a long week, probably 60 hours cutting all these opals, and just came out great. I was just thrilled with them, but then given 2 or 3 weeks, they started to craze, and before it was over, every one of them crazed, and crazing makes them pretty much worthless. Little cracks throughout. Nobody wants a cracked stone. So pretty much lost mostly my time because they weren't expensive. And the opal dealer would have refunded my money, but he wouldn't refund my 60 hours of work. So it was pretty much a loss. But this material won't craze. This hydrophane characteristic, hydrophane means loves water, and it absorbs water and it gives off water without issue. It won't cause a problem with the opal as it does with a lot of other sources of material. So it is a benefit for this, other than what we're going to show you with losing its color when it gets too wet. It is definitely a plus in these opals. So this particular opal, which would make a great pendant. It's a big stone too. It's over an inch long. So I don't know if we can. Whoop. That's okay. Probably can't. But you can see it'll make a nice size pendant. But a beautiful stone. Again, it's $2,490. This is a stone I would appraise at $3,700. So $2,490 is our price online, and with Opal Show, you can take 50% off that tonight and for the next week. So puts it at a little over $1,200. So again, a $50 a carat opal. I mean, the least expensive stones in our business in high quality are $50 a carat and more. And this is just a really gemmy quality stone and just very inexpensive. And a beauty. Let's see. So let me show you. A few shows ago, I showed some of this. When opal forms, the way it forms is typically there's cracks or openings in the ground, and the liquid or gaseous silicates come up through the ground. They're coming from a heat source, and they come up and they fill these cracks and fissures. This particular stone is what we call limb cast. Limb cast was once a limb, and it got buried, and it decayed and left an opening in the ground, and the opal filled it and formed an exact cast, almost like a fossil. Not quite, but it formed a cast of that limb. And that's what you see here. And, this is a beautiful piece. Be a great cutter, but it's such a unique piece as a limb cast, and love to show it. You'll also find in Australia, you'll find clamshells. My wife has a clamshell opal pendant. So it took the shape of a clam shell that, after the animal died, was buried, and the opal filled that. And you also I've seen recently full crabs that are opalized, so it's a unique formation, and that's how these opals form. And what I showed you before, this material on the outside is just the parent sedimentary rock that surrounds this opal. So they dig it out, and they sometimes leave a lot of it on because we pay for it by the gram. So you're paying for this waste on the edge too, but really, really some great material. And the next opal up, this is another top crystal opal. Again, top crystal just means it's very, very transparent. And these from from Ethiopia are remarkably transparent. You look at the top crystal from Australia, and it's not crystal like this, because you can literally read right through it. And that's the other feature of these opals. Remarkably clean. I mean, there just isn't imperfections in them. They're just totally, it's like we made them. They're so perfect interiors. But this really has great colors, and every color of the rainbow. I mean, you see the purples and the blues, so difficult to get in opals, and I even spot some indigo, just really, really cool colors. This is kind of a free-form stone. A lot of the stones are free-form. Again, it's a weight retention thing. But really beautiful opal, 1,590. So take half of that with Opal Show coupon code. Put you under $800 for a 15-karat opal, and really a remarkable stone. I mean, just look at the colors. Very difficult to find an opal with that color from any source. Let's see. So our next opal is a pear shape. And I believe all of the stones here tonight I've cut. I do buy some cut stones, but I'm pretty sure that all these, with maybe the exception of one or two, I've personally cut these. I like cutting opal because it's relatively easy. So here's another one with an interesting color pattern. A lot of the stones in Australia, they have a name for all these patterns, but Ethiopian's pretty new, and I'm not good at naming things, so what you would call this other than beautiful, just look at all the colors. Both this and our pictures online are done with in our photo studio. These pictures you're seeing here are on iPhone. So what you see is pretty much what you're going to get if you took an average of both those. It's kind of what you're going to see when you get home. And the good thing about Ethiopian opals is almost every light, other than diffused daylight. If you're, in a cloudy day, they still show pretty, but it's probably their least desirable. But every other light, you can be in fluorescent light, LED lights, incandescent lights, sunlight. These opals show almost anywhere you go. Yeah. And this is a beautiful stone. $990 is our price online. And again, with the Opal Show, take half off that. So this is under $500 for a 9-karat opal. And again, make a beautiful pendant. This is probably a size that you could do a ring. Yeah. Again, rings a little riskier, but if you'll take care of it, we've done many rings. Just got to avoid the chemicals and oils. But look at the color. Oh.
Hey. It's all right.
Is there a viewer question for us, Jeff?
I'm patient. One question was, you talk a lot about setting these in pendants. How exactly would you set it? It's like prongs, or you, I don't know.
Well,
glue it in, or
prongs are the best choice. A lot of people like to bezel stuff, and we bezel things, but there's always risk in bezeling. Bezeling is very difficult to do. You're literally hammering metal over the stone. We've done it many times, but there's much greater risks. One slip, or it's not the toughest stone on the planet. Although Ethiopian is the toughest opal on the planet. So it's more likely to survive than other types of opals. But prong is by far going to be your safest bet. If we sell you an opal and we set it, we're at risk. If you take it to your local jeweler, you better check who's at risk when they're setting a stone, and they may refuse bezeling an opal. We don't refuse it, but we think it occasionally. It's just a hard job to do, especially a big stone, a big bezel, and a big opal. It's going to literally take you half a day to do the job. So it's much more expensive to do. If you have issues, you need to repolish. Bezel is always a problem. Very difficult to get a stone out of a bezel, particularly cleanly, where it'll actually go back in that bezel. So bezeling is something that you may want to think twice about. You can make a bezel look from a piece that actually has prongs to hold the stone in. But as far as how to set them, a high percentage of the stones we've just done a simple setting, minimal accents. Sometimes we do diamonds, of course, and sometimes we do different color. But a lot of times we set them plain because they're big enough, they're bold enough to stand on their own. And back to the toughness of the opals, GIA did a study on opals where they actually dropped them on concrete, and they took a variety of sources and started dropping them probably at 2 foot and went up to 1.5 meters. And the only one that withstood the 1.5 meters was the Ethiopian opal. So they consider them to be tougher than other sources. I don't recommend doing that. I've had somebody drop one from a foot and chipped it, but you can do that to a diamond. You can do it to any stone. So, but they are considered to be one of the toughest of the opals.
So we won't be testing that out as well tonight, huh?
Probably not. I've got a friend that at the shows, he throws them on their counter. Somebody comes up, he just throws one out on the glass counter, just to show the durability of the Ethiopian. Personally, I won't do that. When you sat down and you spent all this time cutting, you don't want to recut them. But, it is considered to be the tougher of the opals.
And with the pendants, with some of the stones we're showing tonight have some unique shapes to them. So this is probably something we'd have to custom create
Yeah, most of them are custom. And because of the size, it generally is custom. They're odd proportions. Sometimes we can find mountings to fit them, but you can hand wire a simple setting or create a setting for them. We're glad to do that. We do it all the time. So, and back here's the machine, and
right where
you see it? Oh yeah. There's the machine that makes the wax that Christopher Michael, my nephew, has designed a piece, and so we do computer-aided design, create the model here, cast it. My son Michael's our setter, and he does the finishing and setting of the pieces. So we do everything right here. So,
all right.
Okay.
That's it.
That's it? Okay. Next stone. Before we get to that, I can see a little bit of change here. Let's see our... Now, if you look at the opal in the water, you can see a little difference around the edge of the stone. So this stone is starting to take on water, and it's getting more transparent around the edge of it. And we'll continue to watch it and see what the change is.
Just a follow-up question on that, since we are showing it. John wants to know if there's any way. It looks like he is comparing it to how you seal granite countertops to keep moisture out. Is there any way to seal the moisture in from opal that actually crays?
That has crazed?
Yeah, or that, I guess, if Wheelo doesn't craze, you said Australian crazes?
Uh-huh.
Is there any way to seal in the moisture so you don't lose it?
Well, if you're talking about sealing the cracks so they disappear, I know people are working on that. I haven't heard anybody being real successful at that, but they do it with, of course, emeralds and diamonds. We fracture fill those, but to this time, I haven't heard of anybody being real successful at that. And I'd love to find a way to seal these opals to prevent oils from entering. And I'm sure that'll come with time. I've seen some materials on the market that do that, but usually they're colored or they're not totally transparent. And hopefully we'll find something that works for that. Then you can wear it without being concerned about what you get on it, and that would help significantly with opal, you know. But I just don't see too much problems, you know, if people are aware of the issues of opal, you know, because all opals have some issues, but we just love the colors and everything so much. You just are aware of the issues and avoid it, you know, just like we're avoiding this virus now. If you'll follow some rules, you're not going to have problems. What's next, Jeff or Michael? Okay, this one's a really pretty stone. It's probably one of the smallest of the stones we have, but the colors are just extraordinary in it. You know, another top crystal opal. And the colors just float in this piece. You know, and like many of these, both sides are just as colorful. It's sometimes hard to figure out which side to put up, and we have made mountings where you can show both sides of the opal. You know, a little more difficult to do that, but some of them just have extraordinary colors, both sides, and sometimes they're totally different patterns and just unique opals. You know, this I can't say enough about Ethiopian opal and just the endless beauty that they have. You know, you look at all these blues, and I mean, the colors are just so intense. How can you not think this is one of the most beautiful gems on the planet? So this stone is $790. So with Opal Show, you're going to take half off that. So a little under $400. So go to More Gems, click on the green banner that you'll see at the top of the front page, and it'll show all these opals, and you can purchase there. A lot of people bring up the thought of opals being unlucky. And, you know, this is, I guess we'd call it an old wives' tale, because this came out in the early 1800s, I think about 1830. Sir Walter Scott wrote a book called Maiden of the Mist, or Anne of Gernstein was the character in it. And she wore an opal in her hair that changed with her mood, and the story went on, and she died, and it was the opal was considered to be the cause of her death. And from that story, which was a very popular story at the time, this myth of opals being unlucky started. And it just grew and grew, and even Queen Victoria, who loved opals, she did everything she could to dispel this myth about opals. But it still hangs on today. You know, I constantly hear people saying that opals are unlucky. You know, so it is literally from a story from the 1800s. So don't believe it.
Don't believe it. It's not true.
Yeah, because I have a lot of opals, and I've been really lucky. So, you know, it's just a fallacy. Next opal up. This is another cool stone. This is has some really amazing effects. This again is that honeycomb pattern. But it just has such broad displays of color, and it changes from red to green to yellow. It just goes all the way across the stone. So as you're wearing it, it's going to catch colors from each direction. A lot of stones that are faceted just show well face up. This stone, you face it to the side when you're wearing it, and you're going to see these bright colors no matter what direction you're looking from. Just pretty amazing, the display of colors. A big flat piece that shows well and is a big look. And you can see that honeycomb pattern. There you go. There's a good visual of the honeycomb. And you see a lot of people just looking for honeycomb, and it's just because of the intensity of the colors you get in the honeycomb. That to me is pretty amazing. Yeah, you can even see the blues and, again, all the colors of the rainbow. And I think I'm going to keep this one. Cool piece. What was the price? $23.77, and again, half of that. So it's a 15 karat 85 stone that's going to cost you less than $1,200. And to me, that's remarkably cheap. You'll see opals that are 2, 3, 4, 5,000, 10,000 a carat. Those high ends are typically blacks. This might go as a semi-black. So whatever it is, it's just a beautiful stone. So we have a sale.
We do.
Do we know which stone it is?
I'm not going
to. The Sailboat.
Yes. It was a pretty cool one. I think it's the one that when you kind of pushed it over the wording, you saw straight through it. I think it was that one. But the freeform cabochon Wheelo Opal, 14.77 carat.
Cool. You'll love it. Okay, thanks so much. I'm going to show you a little more of the hydrophane character and what hydrophane really does visually if we're lucky. So Wheelo Opals, you can tell they're hydrophane in their most hydrophane state. They stick to your finger. You can literally feel them stick to your finger. They're trying to suck the moisture out of your body. You put it to your tongue sticks to it. Most of what I have is not quite that hydrophane, but and some of it is almost not hydrophane. But all of them do absorb some. Even the crystal opals that I have a low hydrophane character, and you can do that with a drop of water. If you put a drop of water on a non-porous surface, I've tested this, and this is just not an exact science, but that drop of water on a non-porous surface takes 4 minutes to evaporate, is what I've measured. So I've got this opal. If I can find a nice reflective surface, there's one. So I'm going to try and put that little drop of water on there. If I can get one small enough. What's on there? There you go. So if we watch that, gone. That probably was 6 or 7 seconds. So this is like a little sponge. Hopefully you saw it. I can do it again. Could probably do a bigger drop because it's just amazing how quick it sucks it up. This one may take a little while, but it should suck that up too. But this is that hydrophane character. May have been a little big of a drop, but I know you don't want to be here all night watching this drop disappear.
Watching water.
It should go, but I think it's getting smaller, but it was quite a bit of water to suck up. And the more it sucks up, of course, the less it's gonna suck. But so that's basically what this hydrophane character is about. Let's see if I can do a smaller one. That's probably a better size. Hopefully you all can see that. Okay, any day now. I should have left it at the first one. It went so well. Yeah. Maybe it's spread through this area enough. I think this one's going now. Yeah, it's going. Gone. So hopefully you saw that. That's the hydrophane character of these opals. So, and you could do this as a test because I know there's a wide range of just how hydrophane they are, just how much. Hydrophane means loves water. So each one there would be a different rate that it would absorb, and just how hydrophane they are. And, being hydrophane again is a good thing that prevents that crazing. But I suppose there might be a reason that we'd like a little less hydrophane so it wouldn't absorb water quite so quickly and you wouldn't lose the color quite so quickly. We can take another look at this one and see where we're at. And you can see that the color is starting to disappear from around the edges. We still have color in the center, so it just takes time for that water to get to the center of this piece. But we're getting there. Next stone is... got another sold one. What is it, Jeff?
So we got the one. Someone in our YouTube chat. And again, if anybody's watching our YouTube channel here, you can, if you log into your Gmail account or your YouTube account, you can join our amazing chat session that we have going on. But somebody said, let's see if you can guess this one, Steve. Someone said it looked like dragon scales.
Looked like dragon scales. Well, that's the hydrophane. I don't know if it's the one with the reds and greens or...
Yeah, I think it's the one that you actually just showed that you wanted to keep. Somebody denied you.
Yes, yeah. Cool stone. Yeah, I could see dragon scales with that. Honeycomb, dragon scales, yeah. I don't know which is better.
Game of Thrones. Game goes with it. Fire.
I like the dragon scale.
Yep.
Yeah. No, cool. That's really a great stone. It's I'll miss it. But I'm going to cut more, and we're going to have lots of great opals, and as long as it's available, I'm into it. And like all these stones that I've dealt with over the years, there's a finite supply typically. Sometimes they think it's going to go on forever, and then all of a sudden it's just gone. So we deal in it as much as we can while we can, and happy to have great stones from any place, and just keep buying it and selling it, and till it disappears. There was a time when I was early in the business, Australian opal was so much more available than it is now. Finding Australian opal with good red colors is quite difficult these days. It used to be much more available in my early time in the business, but I go back to the late 70s when I started in the business, and things have changed dramatically since then. Mostly for the good, but it's tougher to get material, tougher to get fine material in all gems. There's a much bigger market these days. than it was back then. The jewelers I dealt with were few and far apart that really loved color. Now everybody's into color, and it's made the demand much greater and much more difficult to get these fine stones. So next one's another faceted stone, and a pretty cool one too. Again, the colors speak for themselves. They're just full rainbow colors. And if you look at this, you'll see what I was talking about. The red flashes are all over in this stone. That's it's caused by the faceting and not by what we know as play of color in opal. So these facets are actually reflecting the body color. And when it comes around again, you'll see these red, broader flashes that, you can see it there. That's all from the faceting and nothing to do with play of color of opal. I was waiting for more to... That's okay. So there you go. So you can see all these facets that are just flashing red. You'll see play of color, but the play of color patterns won't be rectangular like the facets. And so it's just an added bonus you get from faceted stones. Just a little more color that really shouldn't be there, other than I put the facets there and it reflects it. So this stone, 1090. Look at that big flash. I mean, hard to find opals with such large flashes like this. Typically much, much smaller play of color. And as you turn it, just every color of the rainbow. So cool piece. This one, 1090, so that puts us $545 for this opal. Took me 5 hours to cut, making less than the plumber, but that's okay. I won't do this forever, but at least sell them at this price. Yeah, maybe. We'll see. This is why I cab, because literally a stone this size in a cab, if it took me longer than a half hour to do it, that'd probably be a stretch. But faceting, worth doing just because of the cool look, and spending the extra time in it to get something that looks like this is a worthy job. And up next, another one looks a lot like Australian. Australian just so typically more milk white body color. And this is the kind of fire that you see in many Australian opals. This is what I'm used to as Australian. And if I told an Australian it was Australian and he couldn't feel the hydrophane, he might believe it too. And he'd go, ooh, that's a pretty opal. This one weighs 22.60 carats, and just a little more pastel in the colors, and that's a lot to do with that milky white body color that kind of tames down the color in these. But still just a beautiful color, and just color throughout the stone, front and back. I mean, it's just color, Back of this is not quite as colorful as the front. That's why the cutter put the other end up. Sometimes on the back of these stones you'll see little pits and stuff. This is a natural, and sometimes I don't polish it quite as well on the back, but the front is our primary goal. Oop, little schmutz on that one. There we go. But even in the iPhone, which is not the finest piece of photographic equipment, well, that one has a little divot in it. But if you buy this one, I'll clean it up, and I don't know how I did that. Let me make sure that's in it. Yep. So didn't quite get this one fully polished, but give me 20 minutes and I'll do it. So if you buy this tonight, before tonight's over, I'll have this refinished.
It's not that one.
It's not this one. Yeah, well.
Well, it is kind of nice. You're getting a custom doing it tonight after the show for
Yes.
them with that stone.
Yeah, I'll go the extra effort and get this for you. It's going to take me hours to do, but I'll do it for you tonight. My wife will miss me, but I'll get it done.
Yep. Hey, everybody, this is your chance. It's not going to be home till about 11 tonight, so
Yeah.
get them doing some overtime.
And I'll probably lose about 30 points off the whole opal to get that out. Maybe a half carat. Yeah.
Not much.
And I'll take it off the total.
So the one that sold, I'm going to give you a few clues here. Sometime, two people have called it. One called it a croissant. The other one called it a taco.
Croissant and a taco. Okay. It must be the faceted one.
It is faceted, yes.
And I would say it's the 11.90 carat.
11.69, yes.
11.6. Okay. Yeah. Okay,
You
cool.
are correct.
Cool. Thanks so much. Yeah, that's a nice stone.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah. Thank you. Back to my mistake, which I make them occasionally. The stone weighs 2260, and if I refinish it and it doesn't weigh 22 carats, I would be amazed. So it's $2,200, and that'd take you down. I'd make it $1,000 even, refinish it, and you have a great 22 carat stone. Lost. Yeah. Gotta. Whatever. Yeah. Well, I just reduced the price a little because we're going to lose a little, and I'm embarrassed that I left that in there. But it's a cool opal. Make a great pendant, and like I say, I'd take care of getting this right. So if you want an opal that looks like a really fine Australian opal for a very reasonable price, this would be your stone. Let me show you a few pieces of rough, just for interest. I don't know if we probably looked at this one. This will definitely cut a black opal. This will have hopefully really great colors. Some of the things about this material, sometimes you get one of these opals and you just look at it and you go, wow, that's beautiful. And sometimes they don't cut quite as beautiful as they were in the rough. Sometimes I think, oh, I should have just mounted that as a piece of rough. It looked better. But I think this is going to be a great one. And no matter what, it's going to be just a beautiful black opal when it's done. Again, all this material, we're going to lose quite a bit of this, and big chunk of that's going to be gone. But it'll still be a 20 carat, really, really nice opal. If there's anything else interesting here. Here's this is an Ethiopian opal that you can't cut, unfortunately. This is a really crystalline material that, was sold to us as not cuttable, and so we'll assume that our dealer knows what he's talking about. So you leave it in a jar. And this is the kind of thing that on MineralMike.com, you're going to see a lot of different opals available. He's got opal rough. Mineral Mike is my son Mike. He does the mineral specimens. So MineralMike.com, you'll find all sorts of specimens, from tanzanites to quartzes to these opals, opal faceting rough. So take a look there, and you'll see some really cool stuff. One more look at our... Oh, viewer question.
Kind of feel like the Brady Bunch, the the start of the Brady Bunch where they're all in the little corners, looking down at each other. I don't know. Am I looking down? Nope. There you go. That's probably.
Marcia.
Yes. You were just talking about Mineral Mike, and I know there were some comments on Facebook and on the YouTube channel about this, but I guess Michael's right in front of me, but is there, if they want to cut some opal, is there any available there that they can cut?
Yeah, Michael has some beautiful stones to cut. Matter of fact, I've cut a few out of there. I don't take his opals generally, but I needed one or two for a job, and get them before I take them. But if I take them, I'm not going to take them from him. But he's got some really great stones, very high yield material. We get them from the same supplier, and I throw Michael a bone occasionally and let him take some of these. Because there's plenty to buy, and he bought some really nice ones and stuff you can make money on for sure. Things that are $100, $150 that are going to cut stones that are $500, $600, minimum $400 pieces. Again, there's always risk in cutting. I shouldn't say what you're going to make, but there's some beautiful pieces in there, and every piece he's got, I could cut a really a winner out of it. And if you take a look there, you're going to find some stones that are worthy of buying.
Somebody had, Sean had a question. Is the white body color more desirable than that golden color, or what's a more desirable color?
Opals is all a personal thing. I mean, there are people that want their opal and expect their opals to look like Australian opals. They expect the milk white body color, and that's what they're after. And when I first started in them, so many people were saying that they wanted to compare it to Australian, but we've kind of gotten over that now, where people are just looking at the beauty of the color and buying whatever. So it's a personal preference thing. I see people pick things that I wouldn't generally pick, but we all see things differently, and there's no best. It's really just looking at them and say, "Ooh, I like that," and that's kind of how we buy opals. And you just want as much color as you can get. It doesn't make a difference the body color. It sometimes makes a difference in the price. With blacks being a little more expensive than the white base, and but those white ones we're looking at are really beautiful stones, and some prefer those colors, and that's why I buy them, because these are, in general, probably the more durable is what a lot of people look at, the things that are more like Australian. I'm not sure if that's true or exactly why that would be, but they look the same no matter what you do with them, what light you're in. The white body color just looks the same, and there's something pleasing about that to many people. And I like them all. I like these white ones. I like the crystal. Crystal personally is more difficult because crystal doesn't always turn out the way you expect it to. Like I was just talking about a little earlier, a lot of the crystals will not appear as beautiful as they did in their natural state. Whereas these white opals, when you see them in their natural state, they don't really look different. There's no real surprises. And that's partially why some people prefer to deal in this white base than the crystal. If you get lucky in a crystal opal, they're amazing. But like I said, there was so many of them. I said, I should have just mounted it as a crystal. It looked so beautiful and didn't necessarily cut the way that I'd expected. Okay. What's next? This one, I personally love this one too. It's a real oddity. I had originally left this little divot, the natural rough that it was. It was a very rough surface. Finally decided it needed to be polished. But the colors on this stone are just extraordinary. I mean, the green and the amount of green it has. I mean, this is an emerald green like we hope emerald would look like. Emerald is in general, in its highest form, has a little bit of blue to it, and this has that, as well as some blue flash to go with it, and you catch it in the right directions, you get all these colors. So even though it's a kind of an odd cut, look what it does for the stone. I mean, those greens are just extraordinary, and that what you see is what you're going to get. This is really an amazing piece. You know, it weighs 14 karat, $16.90 is the price, so half of that is $845 for a 14 karat opal. I think it's special. You know, it's another one of those that no matter what direction, you know, which is true of so many of these Ethiopian opals, you wear it as a pendant, and no matter where somebody else is looking from, they're going to see some extraordinary colors. It's partly due to the extra depth of this material. You know, if you look at Australian opals, man, many of them are just flat as pancakes. You know, some of them are so thin that you can't even cut them. You have to leave the ironstone that's next to them. You have to leave that with it just so there's enough support that they can display. So when you look at those opals, you look at them straight on, and that's where you see the color. Whereas these, with the extra depth, you look at some of them, and they're just extremely deep stones. And it's a good thing. That depth gives you greater durability, and it allows you to wear a piece and for more directional, you can look at them from the side, and they still have that play of color where you don't have to look just only straight down on them to see their colors. Pretty cool piece. What else do I have to show here? Oh.
Hey, Steve. Fielding questions from all over the place. So we also do have live chats on MoreGems.com. So if you want to ask questions there, I do have my phone in front of me. So one question was actually on this stone. In the video, it appears that the convoluted side has more color fire than the flatter, smoother side. Why is that?
We're talking about the one we just looked at?
I believe so. That's the 14.9 or 14.19 carat, correct? I think so.
Are we talking about the back side to the front side, or?
This person, I'm not sure if it's a he, I think was looking possibly at the video that we have on the website, and was just wondering why one side has more color fire than the flatter, smoother side.
Most opals, one side is better than the other. You know, like I said before, some of them are two-sided and have amazing colors both sides. But even this stone has really nice color on the back. You know, it's hard to say that's bad color. You know, you could have a lot of opals that would be a top quality opal with that kind of color on the back. I mean, it goes all the way across the stone, so it's hard to say anything bad about that. You know, a lot of times in the videos I take, because the angle I take at them, you know, usually they're tilted a little bit, so you're looking at the opal like this as it's rotating, you know, rather than straight on. So the backs don't always show the best, you know, but this one's good color front and back. If you can see, it's tilted backwards, and you just don't get a straight on shot of it. And when the back is flat, like I was talking about with the Australian opals, you know, you have to look straight on it to really see the colors. But when you've got a high dome, you don't have to be so straight on to see the colors. Let's see. Okay, next opal. Pear shape. And another crystal opal. Again, all the colors of the rainbow. You know, and a lot of times these blues are so intense that the camera just can't adjust to it. Sometimes they just blur out. But again, a real high dome. So when you're wearing a pendant and you're looking from the side, look what you still see. You know, it's not like you don't have a multi-directional view of this opal where it gives you beauty from all directions. You know, you can look straight on the side of it and it's still a beautiful opal. So this one weighs 15 karat. Our price online is $18.90, and with the coupon code Opal Show, when you go to MoreGems.com and click on the green bar at the top, you can buy this stone for $945. It's a lot of opal for the money, you know, and really a beauty. Okay, next up. Michael, did you fall asleep, or am I not done with something? Okay.
I was astounded by this next one.
Well, it is a cool piece. Again, it's that honeycomb pattern. You know, honeycomb, you see these gray lines. It's what honeycomb is. And if you look, between the gray lines is right where you see the color. You know, as you move it, the red dot right in the center. I mean, you look down the center of the honeycomb, and that's where you see the colors. And look at it. I mean, these yellows, again, are so intense that the iPhone just can't adjust for them. You know, they rate opals on color intensity of 1 to 5. And I always say that, you know, things like this, these are a 6 or a 7. You know, but this just has color everywhere. A really large piece. And quite beautiful. And this is $4,800, but it weighs just under 50 carats. You know, big stone, beautiful play of color, and another one that because of the shape of it, it's just going to show great as a pendant. You know, you look at it from the side and there's just so much color. You know, this opal won't be missed because of the size of it and the extraordinary colors. You know, you look at the back of this and you can see the divots that are out of it. You know, in the back, you just leave those in because to take that out, you cut half the opal away and you cut a lot of the depth of this stone, which is going to get rid of that side view that you have, and it has no effect on the front of the opal. Yeah, you can see that pretty deep hole there. But we're not trying to make this a double-sided. We just want this side. You know, really a beauty. You know, and this is, I don't know how big it is. It's 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches or something. It's well, it's an inch by 1 inch. I gotta exaggerate occasionally. But big stone, make big pendant. Hard to work backwards.
With a mic. There you go.
Yep.
It's a good sized pendant.
But anyway, it'll make a great one. So I think we have another sale.
Yes, we do.
Do I have to guess this one too?
Yeah, you're okay.
Of course, I'm 2 for 2. So
I'm trying to think what this. I mean, this could be. was going to say a Cheez-It, but no. It's not a Cheez-It.
Cheez-It.
No, it could be close to like
I have one in my stock that looks like a Cheez-It.
What? Yeah. I'm not as good as the people on our YouTube chat. They're coming up with some creative stuff tonight. So, this one is the 22.60 carats. It's more of the milky white opal.
Okay. Do I have to cut it tonight?
Is that the one?
It is.
All right.
Oh, God. Call Nancy. I'll be home late.
Good job. Let me see. Edward, nice job getting him to work tonight.
Okay. And I think I told him I'd work on the price a little bit. Didn't I?
You did.
Okay.
So maybe you can see what happens with it tonight, and we can be in touch with him
Yeah,
tomorrow.
we'll refund you some money. But thanks for the order. You know, a great piece. And so I don't know if you have any comment about why you like the milk white colors as opposed to the others. You know, it was a question, so maybe you can answer for us. Up next is faceted opal. Again, we facet when they're clear enough because of the saleability of this material. You know, it's just kind of real mysterious because the color just kind of floats in between the facets. You know, just gives a neat appearance. And I'm trying to see, you know, the reflections in this opal, because of a little bit difference in the color, it's not reflecting as red. It's some greenish flashes. This body color is a little more yellowy. Get back there. So you can see the flashes are more like the body color, a little more golden color. But again, it's just a great look, and as I see more faceted stones selling quickly, I know I have to search for more material that'll work well with this type of cutting. You know, things that are clearer, because it just produces a stone that looks different than every other opal you've seen. So this stone's $640, so it's $320 for this faceted opal.
Bargain.
A bargain. And the next one, for some reason, I love it. At first sight, I questioned it, you know, because there was just some material in the middle that I thought eventually I was going to cut right through it, and I was going to have a piece with a hole down the middle. But kind of looks a little like a black hole because, you know, it has a little show through down the middle, but the colors are just extraordinary in it. And, you know, it actually is very pleasing to me, just the amount of color it has. And the, you know, I never did end up getting too thin down the middle. You know, you can see what I'm talking about is just kind of had to swoop it out to get rid of that parent rock that was in there. But again, really spectacular colors, you know, all directions. You know, this one front and back, you know, front's still a little better than the back, but the back's pretty darn good. So this one is 37 carats. 2,900 is a regular price, so half of that is 14. What is that? That's 10, so it's 1480, 1490. Yeah, whatever. Somewhere around that.
Need a calculator.
Yeah, well. There was a day I could calculate better in my head, but those days are gone. So 50% off with Opal Show. And again, a big stone, just a big face is going to make a great pendant. Again, that, like we talked about, no matter where you look at this, what direction you set it, it's just beautiful opal everywhere. The center, there is a little void down the center, but it's surrounded by so much color that it's cool. Another sale. Cool.
So this is the one with the, I don't know, would you call it indentation? What would you call that little, not an imperfection, because that kind of what makes it unique, but the piece that had the little...
the green one? The vivid green one with the divot?
The little thing in the front. Why don't you show it for a sec? Let me see if it's the right one.
Oop.
I think it's 14.19 carats.
Can you put me up on screen there, Mike? That one? 14.19. Yeah. Okay, cool.
That went to Richard. Thank you, Richard.
Thanks, Richard. It's special. I love it. And literally, a lot of these I do like so much that I do kind of miss them. I have fond memories of them. And, that one, I spent a lot of time on that. I originally cut it once, and then I felt I had to turn that indentation into a polished, it was a rough finish previously, and I looked at it more and more, and I could see the colors under it were so vivid that I finally polished it, and then I was very, very happy with it. So hopefully you're as happy as I was. Thanks. Okay, and next one. Another one with just beautiful colors. You see the blues that are secondary in this, but there, and you'll find all the colors of the rainbow. This one also has a indentation in the back. That stuff comes off. This is the stuff I use to hold it up for photography. But the indentation there, but not there from the front. A really pretty piece, $11.90. So half of that is $5. Somebody, I do need a calculator or another cup of coffee. Let's see, be $5.50, $5.95. Yeah. Okay, so not a lot of money for a stone that's 16 carats. So that's, I don't know what that's in the $40 a carat range. So which is low for the quality of opal this is. Yeah. So really pretty stone. A lot of ways you can set it. Probably most would set it that direction, but you can set it also this and just run a chain off the corners. So nice piece. So let's get back to our hydrophane. And for the most part, our color is pretty much gone. Let's take it out of there and take a good look at it. So when you wash your clothes on a trip and forget you have your opal ring on, this is what happens to it. I don't know if you remember what the colors were previously, but they were pretty dramatically better than what they are now. So you can see most of the color is gone, and it was just a very pretty piece to start with. But this is the nature of hydrophane. You get it wet enough, and usually it's not going to typically happen when you wash your hands. When I'm wearing an opal ring, I wash my hands. I wipe the opal off, then wipe my hands off. So it doesn't affect the color at all because it's going to absorb fairly quickly. So you want to dry it off fairly quickly, but a few minutes is typically not going to do much. So now what we have to do is wait, and the wait can be 2 days to a week before the full color comes back. So it just takes a while for these to dry out, and you're just not going to enjoy it until then, but it will come back full color. I don't know if we'll have time, but you'll see what happens after a short period. This is going to get really milky. It's just going to look white is going to be the next step. Then you'll start to see the color come back. Tomorrow maybe we'll see a little more color, and each day you'll see more color. I say sometimes it can happen in 2 days, and I suppose that's much to the nature of how hydrophane they are. The more porous they are, the more quickly they're going to dry out. The less porous, once they get fully saturated like this stone, they're just going to take longer to dry out. But they will dry out. I have not seen it be an issue with causing any damage. The color comes back. So again, this is the character that makes these more durable. They can handle water, take it on, give it off, and not be an issue as with other opals that tend to crack up when they lose water. So before we're done, we'll take a look at it and see if there's change, but there may not be enough time on this. But we do have a video on YouTube showing the full change from getting wet to drying out, and you can see what that is. Another sail, cool.
It's the one that's in the water right now. No.
That one's $3,000.
Actually looked like a guitar pick a little bit. Michael being a guitar player. So we sold the faceted emerald cut.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, that was cool stuff.
You know, we've made, matter of fact, I made you and Michael rings with a very similar opal to those.
Yeah.
You know, so works well. You know, again, rings a little riskier, but you know, worth doing because they're just fun to wear, fun to look at, and you know, so we do make rings, but you know, pendants always safer, but you know, rings we don't hesitate to do. So, thank you.
Oh yes, I'm back again. Couple questions.
Oh, okay.
Dealing with, you know, because you're talking about with the water and everything. One question was, would you notice any difference in the colors if it was very humid outside?
I have not seen that, and I've been through humid days with them. You know, I just haven't seen the difference. I don't know if we photographed them and checked that, whether you could see a difference. But the opals I've worn, I really couldn't tell a difference with humidity. I don't know what the percentage it takes. I know we get to 100% humidity sometimes, but doesn't seem to be the same as throwing them in a glass of water.
Okay. And another question is with the water that's absorbed. He had a few questions about it, but let's say you're cutting the stone, getting wet. I'm guessing when you're faceting it, how do you ensure that, I guess, the carat weight doesn't include all the extra water?
Well, you'd never sell them till they've dried out, you know, and the weights on these will change. I mean, if you weigh the stones we sold you, the likelihood that they're different than what we said they are is almost guaranteed. You know, they do fluctuate with the humidity, and when I weight them if they were totally dry. Most of them are within, if it's a 15 karat stone, they're within 5 or 10 points, but they can vary that much as far as the weight. So the weights are estimates, they're not exact weights.
So when you say 5 to 10 points, you're not talking about 5 to 10 carats. You're talking about like...
No, if it's a 15 karat that we tell you it is, could be 15 karat 15, or it could be 14 karat 90. Okay. What I've looked at during this show, most of them I didn't change because most of them I generally estimate low, so they actually weigh more than what we've stated. I typically will quote a lower weight, but not always. Sometimes whatever's on the scale I put on it, and just try and tell people that these weights are estimate just because the amount of water in it does affect the weight.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And when I cut, that's one of the distressing things for me when you cut something, because as a cutter, when you finish a stone, you want to go, oh, look at this, this is so beautiful, but when you're using water, they look like the stone you just looked at. You don't get to see what it looks like until 3 or 4 days later, which I've gotten used to mostly. But, you always want to show off your work, and, as soon as you finish it, but opals are not that way. You're not going to impress anybody with an opal that you just finished. So you got to wait the time and before you show it off. So, and next up is...
You need to ask the chat what this looks like. All right.
Jeffrey knows what that looks like.
So chatters,
huh?
YouTube people, tell us what that looks like. Oh, I know what it looks like. Okay. I was expecting a sailboat again. But
yeah, it'd be an odd sailboat, but...
my wife would also know what that looks like.
Yes.
So,
she...
either one of these or...
Are we waiting for
else.
chatters to... Well, it could be what you like or what I like.
Yes, it could be.
Yeah. I have a Yorkie, and it could be a Yorkie. And your Mittens, which is a cat, a Himalayan cat, it definitely could be a Himalayan cat. I've pictured it 2 different ways, one setting a different direction. So for those who don't like cats, maybe you want to set it a different direction. But a really special piece for somebody that's into cats, and how much we're into our pets. And this one definitely has that look. It was through no intention of my own. I just cut what was there. It's just the way it came out. So if you've got somebody that loves cats and would love to wear a cat, this one would probably be close enough to please her. Or him. But really great colors. Again, a crystal opal, little milkiness to it, but pretty much crystal. And just great colors and a unique shape. So this stone, 2520, half of that's going to be $1,260, something like that. Yeah. So, and it weighs 16.85 carats. This is another one. It took me a long time to cut this because there's a lot of ins and outs. The problem with the ins and outs is it's a hand tools, and it's multiple hand tools. And if you try and go at it too fast, you'll get little fractures from the heat that builds up. It's generally the tools, most of the ones I use are not using water, so you can build up heat pretty quick. So you have to be much more careful, and when you damage it, you end up recutting, and it's just a lot of time involved to do a piece like this. if I had my choice, I would not carve because it's just so labor intensive. When I can cut 10 opals instead of one, I choose to cut 10 for profit and for my sanity. But a piece like this, the yield would have been horrible. I mean, this would have been a 5-carat stone. I'd never have come out of this piece. And you don't know until you start cutting into it. When you cut away all that rock, you see what you got left over. And I have many pieces in my vault that are waiting to be sculpted, and they may wait a while longer because I'm not anxious to get to it. One of these days I'll sit down and do them because there's some really beautiful pieces yet to cut. And sculpting's the only way to go when the yield's as poor in a cabochon as a piece like this would be. If you cab this, there's nothing left. Literally 5-carat would be a big stone out of this. It'd be a miracle yield. But cool piece as it is, and again, if you like cats, it's a great piece to make a pendant out of.
So I just wanted to give. Some people thought it looked like a llama.
Well, if you
French
like
bulldog, I think it's pretty much.
I'll go for
pet they
cats.
have.
I think I got a better chance of finding a cat lover than a llama lover. She loves llamas. Well, they're cool. They spit, but
Yeah. So did you, when you were carving this, was like a llama or a cat in your head about this is what I'm going to make this look
No.
like, or did it just come out like that?
it just came out like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Okay.
just cut all the garbage away, and what you got left is what you got left.
Could have been.
Could have been.
Yeah.
Maybe someday I'll start carving to demand. I have a skull I need to carve, but I haven't been confident enough I could do a skull. But one of these days I'll sit down and do that.
So with this, if somebody, so this would be definitely a custom pendant.
Definitely.
Would it be like a wire, some kind of, or how would you set this one?
Well, you could wire it, would be the simplest way, because I'm not sure what the framework would be necessary. Wiring would be, when you say Mike, would be the easiest way to do that? Yeah. Chris could design something for it, but yeah. You want to put a gold collar on it, or, well, you can wire that too. So there's, wiring would probably be the best way. And wiring is just taking wire and forming it to fit the piece so you can hang it from something. So. All right, next. Another cool opal that, again, looks like a really top Australian piece. Let's see. Just a smaller fire. Michael, you love this, don't you? He's into Pinfire. Yeah, and that's the nature of opals. Pinfire for me, although I love this opal, Pinfire is not my thing. I like bigger flashes, but this kind of has a mix. Pinfire is just really fine, like in the middle here. Those really fine flashes, and that's something that Michael just loves. Whenever we're looking at rough and I see Pinfire, I just, here you go. It's your thing, not my thing. But this has different plays of color, so that's why it still appeals to me. Because all the way around the edges here, there's this broader flash. Just has a real mix of color play, and just really intense colors and a full spectrum. So it's a great piece. Really thick. Find an Australian opal with that kind of thickness, that's a rare bird. And again, that's what makes these tough, because it's like a piece of glass. The thinner you cut a piece of glass, the more delicate it is. Plate glass, 1/4 inch is a really tough piece of glass. You start getting down into I don't know how thin glass gets, but the thinner it is, the easier it is to break. And this is just a really, really tough stone because of its thickness, as well as beautiful colors and, just sparkles. So it weighs, what does it weigh? So it's little over 34 carats, $4,950. So it's about a $2,500 stone. But really a great opal. I mean, again, you look at Australian material like this, and it's $10,000-$15,000 opal. This stuff out of Ethiopia has just affected the opal market so much, and I get a lot of negatives from Australians when I talk so positively about this material, because it is a little bit of a threat, because the price is better. The colors are as good as most of the Australian opal. Top quality to top quality, I think they're comparable. Australians won't agree with that, but, you get opals like this, and it's hard to find a more beautiful opal. And when you talk $2,500 for an amazing stone like this, it's really a bargain. Question.
Yes. I know we've talked about this throughout the show, but just to let everybody know, we got people popping into the show at different times. So one gentleman wants to know, some of these pieces are pretty expensive. Maybe a quick recap of the best way to take care of an opal if you're using this for a ring or a pendant so that you don't ruin it.
Just avoid all liquids. Do your best to not get oils on them. Oils are one thing that can then damage this opal. You want to keep them wiped down after you wear them. Opal is not an everyday ring stone. A lot of people want to think that all jewelry can be worn every day, but opal is definitely not one that's something you wear in everything you do. You wear it for a nice evening out, or you just wear it where you're not going to beat it up. And beating it up is not the major issue with this material, because it is pretty tough. Although it is soft. I mean, 5.5 is not the hardest thing on the planet. And you can scratch them, but scratches are easy to fix. But it's the absorbing oils and chemicals that is the problem with this type of opal. As I've stated, it's the problem and it's the benefit, because it being able to take on water and lose water and not craze. Crazing is the worst thing for an opal. It destroys an opal. And these won't craze, but it's because they're hydrophane and they take on water and lose water without damage. But taking on oils is a problem for them, so that's what you have to be careful with. And that's why I say pendants are a safer place for them. Not only the hardness issue, but the absorption of oils. And when you make a piece of jewelry, you make it so it keeps it away from your skin. I don't know what problem skin oils are, but it's, some people produce a lot of oil and it can absorb into the opal. So, most things you do with jewelry are going to keep it off the skin. I get some people wanting their stones to touch your skin, but this is not one of them that you want touching your skin. So when you do a mounting, which is hard not to do it, that it keeps it off your skin, because most mountings have a basket underneath or something that holds it away from you, and that's what you want in this opal. Just be more careful with them, and you're going to get a lot of wear out of it. Just understand what you're wearing, and you're not going to have issues. cleaning methods that jewelers use are not acceptable for opal, which includes ultrasonic cleaners and steam cleaners. So you wipe them off with a cloth, and that's pretty much all you need to do. Oh, another sale. Cool.
I was first going to say thank you for that quick recap.
Yeah, I don't have a quick answer to anything.
It's all right. It's very thorough.
Yeah. Some people say I'm full of it.
So this was the sale that came in. Actually, was from last week's show.
Oh, cool.
So
yeah, and everybody should remember that what we had on last week is still available this week. It goes through tomorrow.
Yep. You can just go to MoreGems.com, and there is a link up there that says like the gem shows. It gives the dates so you can see them. And like Steve said, last week's show is still available with the discount.
Yeah, we had some cool stones on there. Last week was unique stones. So there's a lot of things you don't typically see in the market, which we have a lot of that. But these were some pretty unusual stones, bicolored tanzanite and pink tanzanite, peach tanzanite. I don't know what else was on there. Some Heliodor, I think.
This one was the Heliodor the yellow barrel?
Yeah.
That's the one that sold.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's a neat stone. Heliodor is a yellow beryl, like aquas, emeralds, all from the same family of gems. And that's a real tough stone. So you can wear that in rings, no problem. And, just keep that stone clean because it has a low refractive index and cleanliness is important. Keeping the back of the stone free of oils and grease is going to show it to its best because those will affect the brilliance of the stone. Higher the refractive index, the less that's a problem. But beryls don't have a very high refractive index, although that stone is really brilliant, and refractive index determines brilliance. But if you cut them right, you can get a very brilliant stone, and that's the nature of that one. And so, nice stone, nice opal. And thanks for the barrel sale. Heliodor means gift of the sun because it's yellow. Next up, Michael. All right. Another stone with remarkable brilliance. The colors are not only just broad flashes, just the intensity of the colors is just, it still amazes me when you get a good one like this off the dop, with, just a lot of different patterns, even that, I don't know what you call that pattern, little dashes across it and, big broad flashes. In Australian opal, these bigger broad flashes are what's considered more valued. And, although it's not harlequin pattern or anything, they're just some big, beautiful flashes in this. And again, all directions. You don't find a side of this stone that doesn't have all the colors of the rainbow. And you see blues and purples, which are so tough to find in opals. But look at, there's a flash that covers half the stone. You don't find that every day. So really nice stone, $1,880. And with the coupon code Opal Show, it'll be 50% off that. And a question.
Question sort of from me, but one gentleman was asking, he's been looking for an opal with some blues in it. And I know you mentioned the blues in this stone. Out of the ones you showed, are there any that does this one stand out with blues, or is there any coming up?
That stands out blues.
Maybe something we don't have on the show tonight, but
I do have some that are more blue for sure, that are blues and greens. If he can call or email us, and I can send him some pictures of some stones that have more blue. It's not like there's some material, I think probably out of Queensland, maybe in Australia, that are notably blue, and some black opals out of Australia that are mostly all blue. These are not quite like that. I think what I have is the crystalline type material, but significant amount of blues and greens. Those typically go together, the blue and the greens, no matter what source. They're close to each other in the spectrum, and they seem to go hand in hand. So with one you get the other most typically. Although I can remember Australian opals that were just all blue. Just really a beautiful blue. I'm not sure if that material's still available. That goes back 20 years probably, but may still be available. But I can show them some things with blues. Just need to email me or just get a message or give us a call. We're a little sporadic what we are in this week, but next week we're in full time again. So Joe, just contact us and I'll send you some pictures and videos of some things with more blues.
And then the stone that you just showed, was it Pinfire? What was it called? The one that Mike you
the big one? Yeah, the one with Pinfire.
Yeah, so Francesca was asking why you like it, Michael, versus Steve.
I'm attracted to it. I like the tight pattern, just color all over the place rather than big broad flashes. I don't know if they hurt me.
Yeah.
He
That's just the nature of opals. People look at them and everybody's got their own reason for liking something. It just strikes them. It's like clothes, the patterns in clothes. We all like something different, and opals are no different. And that's a dramatic difference for me and Michael while we look at stones. I mean, there's no question who's getting the Pinfire ones, because it's not for me, but it's for him. He's gaga over them. Gaga.
I just basically asked my wife what she likes, and that's the one I get. That's it.
That's it. Okay.
I don't think you finished this one.
Did I finish this one?
I'm not sure.
Oh. There's more to say about this one. It's $1,880, and you can have it today for $940. It's a lot of opal for that money. Look at the colors that are in it. The purples and blues. I mean, it's just really, really a pretty stone. Top crystal. It's any clearer, and it would be water clear. And the reason the crystal opal is so valued, because very, very difficult to get something with no body color to show this kind of color. So it's really special material that can display color like this and be as transparent as it is. The stone, if I'd, I don't know when I cut this, but this would have been a good facet material. This is the kind of material I look for faceting. Probably glad I didn't. It's such a beautiful stone as a cab. And again, the problem with faceting is you're going to lose some weight in it also. You just don't typically get as good a yield out of a faceted stone as you do a cab. Yeah, I could look at this for...
Got more.
Yeah. I don't, do I? Oh, I do. I thought I was done. What's the next? Oh, there it is. These were hidden from me. Another cool one. This is a big opal. finding opals this big from other sources, just very difficult. And then you get colors like this. Few more divots in the back. As I explained, this was the parent rock material that intruded into this. So whatever this hole was had some unusual pockets, and when the whatever dissolved out of this hole, the parent rock projected in, for some reason, the shape of whatever was in there. So the only way to get rid of it, you have to cut that material out, but you don't want to cut, this is probably 2 millimeters deep, and to get it out, you have to cut an extra couple of millimeters in here, and there's no reason to, because, it has no effect on the beauty of the opal from this side. So only if you were trying to do a double-sided stone would you ever cut that away. So really pretty stone, 2,900. So $1,450 is the price for a 29 karat opal. Gonna make a beautiful pendant. It's just a great shape for a pendant. Not quite a sail shape, but it's a beauty. And again, a thick piece. Thickness is durability, and this has it all going for it. Color. That's evenly spread throughout the stone, just no dead spots in it. And if you look inside this stone, there's just no imperfections inside. The only imperfect thing about it is the divots I cut out of the back. Other than that, it's really a perfect opal. So 29 carats, $1,450, and what a pendant it's going to make. Suppose we could make a ring out of it, be a big ring, but how would that look? Yeah.
I can see it.
Yeah, I could see it. We've made bigger. It'd be cool.
All right.
Question, Jeff.
We still have a few more stones, or is this? Good? Oh, we do.
We do.
I'm gonna save this question for the last then. It's a story time question, which people enjoy your stories. So
Okay.
We still got
I'll be back.
All right. And up next. There's another sail shape. For you sailors out there, we can make a sailboat out of this one. And it has colors brighter than any sail you own. It'd make quite a sail. You could copy these colors and it'd be a beautiful sail.
Can you make it sail across the screen?
But it's quite a stone. Weighs 15 karat 80, 27.65, and with the Opal Show coupon, you're going to get half off that. This half off sale is not a gimmick. I mean, these are truly half off the price I've had online for years, and over the years, I've actually dropped the price of Opal. When I originally got into Opal, I just thought these are the most amazing things on the planet and I should make a ton of money on these. So I've been dropping the price over the years, and now this 50% off puts it into a price that I pretty much can guarantee you that you're not going to find a price cheaper anywhere. These the pictures you're seeing are accurate, and these are just beautiful opals. There are ways of that I can deal with the camera and make these opals look much more beautiful. But that's not the case with these. We try and make the videos as accurate as possible. So when you get it, you're going to be happy that you got the stone that you saw. So in this stone, probably both sides are great colors. You'd have a hard time deciding which way's up on this one. Question, Jeff?
So with some of these, like that one to me looks more blue than anything. But
there's a lot of blue in it.
yeah, if someone's, purchasing an opal tonight, and as far as the gold color, is there like a color combination that looks better with white versus the gold, or is it just what they like the best?
Well, in general, of course, I like opals in yellow better than white, but it's not what I sell. I sell more white than yellow just because that's what people are into these days. It's slowly shifting back to yellow, and I think another 10 years maybe we'll be 50-50 split white and yellow, but right now white's what's selling. And these look fine in white, but if I were going to choose a metal that I thought was the best look, I think yellow's better. But I'm not choosing these days. The customer's choosing, and they choose white.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So this color pattern's a little different. We showed one, I think, last week that had just stripes in it, and this has a little bit of that. If you look at the colors, they almost run in stripes down the stone. So you don't see that very often. As I said about the stone last week, the one last week was they were just perfectly straight stripes, which this is close. So it's just a unique pattern. I don't know why it forms like that. You don't usually see these straight lines in something that's not crystalline like this. You see straight lines in sapphires. You see color banding that's straight, but in a amorphous crystal like these. Let's see, is that appropriate? Amorphous, yeah, no form. Okay. Typically, straight lines like this is not the norm. Just a unique pattern that I see on rare occasion. But much more important is the beautiful colors that are in this opal. All right, got another one sold.
So this one was the 18.87 carats cabochon opal. I believe that was from earlier.
Not sure which one that is.
That's all right. It looks cool from the picture.
Okay.
Yes.
All
definitely.
right. Well, thanks so much. Yeah, they're all cool, so I'm sure that was a beauty. 18.8. Sounds familiar. All right. What's next there, Michael? Well, let's see what our opal's doing, if anything. Nope, not much. Still colorless. Maybe getting a little hazy, but again, this is just going to end up looking white like this paper. Kind of. So this kind of allows you to see the body color that's in a lot of these. This one was a little orange, and the body color is kind of I don't know what that is, but typically they're reddish orange, and that's why in the faceted stones you get that red flash. Or in the case of the one that's sold tonight, it's greener and had a green flash to it. All right, next up there. Okay, pear shape. Another top crystal stone. And another one that just has every color. And extremely intense colors. Whew. Wow. It doesn't get much better than that. You know, opal is valued by how much color it has, how evenly distributed it is. And it's hard to have more color or more even distribution than this opal has. You know, there's not a dead spot in it. The back, not quite so beautiful, but respectable. That's beautiful. But look at that. I can't say I've seen better. Well, there's a few here tonight that were close. Or better. Or different, I should say. You know, but this is a really special opal. $13.90's our price online. Again, Opal Show will get you a price of just under $700. So a really remarkable opal. That's going to be a centerpiece of a great piece of jewelry. I mean, it's a size that will work well as a ring, or can be a very nice pendant. That's deserves a moment of silence. Goldstone. You know, somebody should own this. Somebody out there needs this opal. Any other questions you might have? All right. Question.
All right. So I'm back. So I'm going to let some questions roll in, but there's a few questions related to it coming in through Facebook and through chat. And that was, you know, a lot of the opals we're seeing tonight, like you said, from Ethiopia. Can you tell us a little bit more about like the area of Ethiopia or what the mines are like? Just give a background where these opals are actually coming from.
Yeah, I probably should add pictures, but they come kind of, well, they're north of the capital. It's in Wollo province, Wilo. I think the town nearby is Weagletina, something like that. I haven't been there. I'd like to go. Not sure you can go to the mining area or not, but possibly. I know there was a video by, I think the show was Gem Hunt.
Someone actually mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
About if you remembered the show Gem Hunt, and
he
talked about the
he went
person's
to the
name.
mining area. He went to the town near the mines. He didn't go to the mines, I don't believe, but you know, that's a show you could look up. It's online, and it was a good show.
Ron LeBlanc.
Yeah, Ron LeBlanc. Yes. Okay. Yeah, when I was going to Madagascar, somebody had told me I needed to go see him because he was in town's going to escape me. Just south of Antananarivo is, lost it at the moment, but a beautiful European-looking town in Madagascar, and he was based there, I believe, for a while I was traveling there. I never went and saw him, but I've enjoyed his shows and wish he would have done more. They had quite a few in different mining areas and well worth watching. You learned quite a bit. I think he was knowledgeable, and the people with him were knowledgeable, and one of the better shows that I've seen, and they did go to Ethiopia for Opal. What was the question?
The background on Ethiopia. You know,
okay.
A lot of people buying these stones.
Okay.
You know, if they want to
Sure.
say where they're from and I give a history of, you know.
Well, they're mined in the side of, I don't know if it's a massif or, you know, it's just a high area that just drops off. And they're mining 1,000 foot down from the top into the side of this mountain. And it's just a layer that they're mining and going back into the mountain. I don't know how deep they're in now. You know, and it's one of those situations where, you know, sometimes as quick as it started, it can end. You know, so that's why we deal with it as much as we can while we can, turn as much material while it's available. And currently it's available. So we'll continue. The prices stayed pretty stable in the rough. You know, and you know, they still can export rough. They've tried to stop the export of rough, as Tanzania has done with tanzanite. But that just they tried it and gave up on it because they were putting everybody out of business. So we can still get the rough out. They are taxing it appropriately, and it seems to be a good legal, legitimate business that's going on. And my supplier has no difficulty exporting. So it's a good situation for everybody. The material's available. It's there in quantity and quality. You know, and if you want low-end stones, there's tons of it. I mean, there's just plenty of material in the low end. But why anybody would buy low end, I'm not sure. When you can buy a really, really top-quality stone for relatively inexpensively, you know, it's the way to go at it, because one day these are going to be considered some of the finest opals on the planet, and they're not going to be available, and the price is going to go up accordingly. Other than that, I don't know a whole lot about the mining, because I haven't been there. You know, it hasn't been a country I've traveled to and haven't had the need to, because I get to see my supplier a couple times a year here, and, you know, he's willing to travel. So it works out well. I'd love to go because it's not far from where I go in Tanzania. It's just difficult to travel to two countries and carry goods across two countries, so it makes it difficult. And tanzanite's our most important stone, so that's my focus.
Okay. And then I believe a gentleman asked earlier, you've mentioned this in a few shows, but when you talk about, you know, going to the gem show out in Arizona, can you give us the name and if it's open to the public, a little background on that show?
Well, Tucson Gem and Mineral Show, which happens every year, is literally 50 shows. So it's a wide variety of shows. There are shows open to anybody. The big shows are wholesale only, which is AGTA and GJX, which I've had a hand in the development of both those shows. AGTA, I was a charter member when I was doing the shows back until 2001. In 1981, AGTA formed because we were all unhappy with Warner, who was running the biggest show, which was at the Holiday Inn on Broadway. And all the dealers there got together, and we formed AGTA at that time. And which is now one of the biggest shows out there. You know, that show is strictly wholesale, and the other one is GJX. You know, back when AGTA was going and I was showing out there, you know, we were paying so much money for booths that I saw this property is for sale across the street, and I tried to talk to friends and get them to go in and buy this property for what we were paying. You know, 10 of us doing the show could probably have afforded buying this property and developing our own show. But of course I couldn't get any of them really interested in doing that. They just couldn't see it, I couldn't understand it. But anyway, I called the owner of the property and asked him how much it was. And of course, it wasn't in my realm of possibility to do it on my own. So I proceeded to tell him all about what I thought about what should be done with it. And within a couple of years, he had done that. So going from trying to sell the property, he developed a show and developed into one of the best shows out there. It's right across from AGTA, and it is the other large wholesale show that's in Tucson. So, but other than that, there's shows all over town, and probably 25 of the shows anybody can get into. There are some that are strictly wholesale, and so it's an interesting place for everybody. Just pretty confusing for most because there's just so many shows. I mean, half the gems in the world are out there at that time, and they're just everywhere. It's confusing for us. I generally go out there and, I don't show anymore. I quit in 2001, but I still go out there and buy from the dealers I know, and my goal is to see people coming in from overseas. The half the business that's done out there is not done at shows; it's done between dealers. So,
okay.
But anybody can go out there and you can find something interesting.
See that?
Another sale?
Yeah, your storytelling just
okay.
made people want to buy.
I'll just tell stories all night. You could pay me to tell stories. Cool.
So actually, we got a few sales that came in. So we got a sale for that last one you spoke about. Was a 9.71 carat with the color you liked. It was
yeah, the pear shape. Yeah, good stone. And I say every stone in there tonight is a great stone. I have so many stones to pick from that, it was easy to pick an assortment that was just amazing. I've got a few of my favorites that I didn't put in there, but, there's some 80 carat stones I wasn't willing to give half off on, but these that are in there, every one of them's worthy of owning, and at half off, it's a great price for everybody.
And then the 15.23 carat pear-shaped cabochon just sold.
Okay, cool. Some smart people out there because, they're really good buys and they're really good stones, and you're going to be happy you own them.
Yeah. And then lastly, the freeform cabochon opal 5.64 carats sold.
Okay.
So,
great.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks everybody. And for the rest of you, there's still a few for sale, and they're going quick, so you might want to step in and get a piece of Ethiopia.
All right, I think that's
probably
it with the we answered quite a bit tonight. So
yeah. All right, folks, remember, shop online at MoreGems.com, as well as subscribe to us on YouTube at MoreGems. That's going to do it for us today. I want to thank you all for joining us.
Till next week.
And until next week, we'll be here as long as I can keep putting in the time to get this together. We're going to be there on every Wednesday night at 7:05 p.m. Central Standard Time, which is Chicago time. And sign up for alerts for when we go live. Also check out all the video links and info at the bottom of the stream. So until next time, I'm Steve Moriarty. Keep on gemming, and thanks so much for all the purchases.
Thank you.